What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Taco Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. I actually went out for tacos today. First time in a long time. Actually celebrated Taco Tuesday with my family. I want to thank everyone for tuning in last week. We had 32 states tune in across the country. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week, and we can only do that with your help. So, how do you help us here? Real simple. One, give us a thumbs up for this in particular show, the Full Monty Sports Show. Also, as you can see right there, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. A couple weeks ago in our search engine, we were trending #1. As you can see right there, Norm MacDonald, he's always in the top 5. But on May 30th, we were trending #1 for Sports Show. The first thing that came up on the YouTube search was the Full Monty Sports Show. We have the best guests all across the country, and this week is no exception. We're kind of making this a Tuesday tradition. I'm going to have the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew join us to talk everything you need to know about NBA, and we might even continue to do this in the fall, have guys come on and talk football as well on Tuesday nights. Obviously, I do my show Sunday at 11 a.m. Normally, we do the show Tuesday at 8 p.m., but we switched it around this week just for 1 week, 6 o'clock Eastern time. So thank you all for tuning in. Before we get our talented and wonderful guests on, let's remember a few things. First, here's our bingo drinking card game. Anytime we mention one of these players, feel free to take a shot. Definitely love the feedback, so keep the comments coming. Giving you guys a round of applause for, I don't care how big the show is. I don't care how small the show is across the country. We have the best, most informed guests talking in the chat room. I watch a ton of YouTube shows all week. No matter how big the show is, no matter how many views they're getting, they are not as active as my fans are and my guests are in the chat room. So I really appreciate you guys. You make this show interactive. You interact with the guests, and you're a big part of this show. All right, we started every time, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This portion of the show is brought to you by Beam Organics. Go to beamorganics.com. Provides the best supplements, provides the best formulas for recovery, for sleep. Beamorganics.com. Go to their website and check it out. All right, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get right to it. Let's start with the good. Finally, the Supreme Court of the United States unanimously affirmed a ruling Monday that provides for an incremental increase in how college athletics can be compensated, and also opens the door for future legal challenges that could deal a much more significant blow to the NCAA. I chose this picture for a reason, because this is really what the NCAA has been about, right? It's all about business, the NCAA, but the player never existed. I mean, this goes all the way back to teams of the 80s, UNLV with Greg Anthony, Larry Johnson, the Fab Five in Michigan. I remember one time I saw an interview where Jalen Rose was saying that he had to borrow money to go out for pizza, and as he goes to the pizzeria by the school, he sees about 20 people wearing his jersey at Michigan. And it's like, these guys are the school's making money off me, and I can't even afford pizza. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in the court's opinion, which upheld a district court judge's decision that the NCAA was violating the antitrust rule. The NCAA was violating the antitrust rule, and this is now giving athletes, they're going to be compensated. And that's really, really a great thing. They're going to be compensated. So, yes, happy Taco Tuesday to everyone. Someone just texted me they're having a problem with the chat room. We'll try to work it out and figure it out for you. But keep the comments coming. So that's the good. Athletes will not be compensated for their likeness. That makes me happy. I'd love to see college players, if you're going to sell their jersey and make millions and millions of dollars, they need to be compensated. Now, let's move to the bad. So the Brooklyn Nets, we'll talk about this in a little bit with our guests, got knocked out by the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games. They have 3 high-priced players, right? They got Kevin Durant. They got James Harden. They have Kyrie Irving. Well, Brooklyn Nets guard Spencer Dinwiddie has declined a $12.3 million player option for the 2021-22 season. He becomes a free agent. The 28-year-old has not played, okay, he has not played since 2020, where he had a partial ACL tear, but he was averaging 20.6 points, 6.8 assists, and 3.5 rebounds. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have to tell you, this is a bad sign for the Brooklyn Nets. This is a bad sign for the Brooklyn Nets. They lost because of injuries, and Kevin Durant was playing 48 minutes a night. They have no bench. As a matter of fact, in two of their games, I think the bench only scored less than 4 points. In one of their games, I don't even think a bench player took a shot. So what are the Nets going to do with these high-priced injured guys when Spencer Dinwiddie is basically saying, hey, guys, I'm out? Coming off an ACL tear, he turned down $12.3 million. How toxic does that environment have to be? Because I got to be honest with you, if Spencer Dinwiddie came back to Brooklyn, he'd be the sixth man of the year. He'd run that second unit, and you'd be able to get time for these guys to rest. But he said, no, I'm not going back. That's a bad sign for Brooklyn. That's a bad sign for Brooklyn because with all these max contracts, they're not going to sign any high-priced free agents. So these are the guys you're living and dying with. James Harden, who notoriously comes to camp out of shape, which we'll get to later. Kyrie Irving, who's injured all the time and think the world is flat. And Kevin Durant, who, let's be honest, was dominant, but when the game was on the line, and we'll talk about this in a bit, when the game was on the line, Kevin Durant shot an air ball. The Brooklyn Nets, Spencer Dinwiddie, who would have been sixth man of the year, could have went there for $12.3 million, had a great year, and then signed somewhere else for big money and saying, I'm out. I'm out. So I'm just letting you know now, we see signs in Boston that it was a disaster of a locker room. This Net locker room is not all that's cracked up to be. Yeah. Listen, I think Spencer Dinwiddie will be a great acquisition to anyone. He may not be a 2, but he's a solid 3. He can score, he can rebound, he can defend a little bit. I'm a big fan of Spencer Dinwiddie. But him saying bye to the Nets, ouch, I don't know what's happening here. All right, so that's the good, that's the bad, and now to the very ugly. This is, I mean, Greg Rector at Cowboys on Twitter, him and I don't see eye to eye on almost anything. But we agree with this. I don't know what the hell is going on with NBA coaches, okay? But back in the day, you wouldn't let the best player beat you. Yeah, everyone talks about Jordan against Utah in Game 6. He hits the jump shot. He pushed off. But you got to remember something. Before that, Michael Jordan hit John Paxson. John Paxson hitting the game three-pointer with 3.9 seconds left in a 98-99 victory over the Phoenix Suns in Game 6 to win the final. Steve Kerr hit a big shot to win it in Game 6. But there's something going on in the NBA now because Kevin Durant, and I know the Milwaukee coaching staff is atrocious. As you can see to the right, this is not a double team. This is P.J. Tucker and Drew Holiday. I don't know what the hell Drew Holiday's doing on this defensive play. All right? But Kevin Durant got any shot he wanted. But we're not just seeing this. Trae Young against the Knicks, killing them all game, drives to the lane and left. He got whatever shot he wanted. Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, they're getting any shot they wanted. What happened to let someone else beat you? The Milwaukee Bucks, and we'll get into it later, they won despite their terrible coaching. I don't understand what's going on in the NBA when you're letting superstars beat you because they're going one-on-one. Take the ball out of the best player's hands. Again, everyone wants to talk about Jordan. Look at that. Paxson, Kerr, hitting big shots. Magic Johnson did a big shot. He'd find, remember Kareem with the sky hook in Game 7 against Boston. Isaiah Thomas didn't always have the best shot, last game shot. I don't understand. I'm watching all these playoff games. Devin Booker with less than 2 minutes left is getting any shot he wants. How do you not double team Kevin Durant when he's lighting you up for 45 every game? Let someone else beat you. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. If Kevin Durant had any wherewithal about where he was on the court, he would have known he was on the foot line there. And the series would have been over, and people would be like, how do you let Kevin Durant beat you? Again, the NBA coaches today, make someone else win it. Make someone else beat you. You know how many times I get annoyed when I watch the Green Bay Packers, and I'm a Packer fan, and it's the fourth quarter, and Devontae Adams has 4 catches? Like, what the hell are you doing? Double team him. Let someone else beat you, guys. The NBA coaching right now, down in crunch time, Tom Thibodeau is supposed to be a defensive genius. Doc Rivers was atrocious in his substitution, in his coaching, in letting Trae Young at games 1 through 6 just dominate him. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. We need coaches who are, yeah, thank you. Greg said it's the best segment ever because I said I agreed with him. Greg wrecked it right there. Definitely. No, but listen, Kevin Durant got any shot, and I just think it's absolutely disgusting that as a coach, I've coached. I know what it's like to win and lose. Thank God we won like 87% of the games I coached, and we were like 16-0 in one possession games. I lost one possession games in the last 2 minutes. I would never let a best player beat me. Double team. You know how many times role players were wide open, 3, and they shoot an air ball, they miss it because I'm double teaming the best player that we're playing in college? Come on, man. If I did it at the Division III level at an AAU, how are NBA coaches not doing it? How are NBA coaches not doing it? So there you have it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, let's bring the crew on right now, the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew. Let's bring them all to the table. Let's make sure we don't forget about Joe, who's on the bottom there. Joe, we got the second right now. How was everyone doing tonight?
Great.
Pretty good.
Doing well.
Pretty good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. A little lethargic there with the answers, but we'll pick up the pace right here. Let me bring the energy. Let's get the NBA background going there. Okay, Joe, we're going to start with you. I don't understand what's going on in Boston, but we just heard that Blake Griffin wanted to sign with the Celtics, and one of the guys on Boston said, don't come here, it's a disaster. Now, I think of the Boston Celtics, and I think of, an organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants. They don't always win it, but they have a good nucleus, they have a good core, they have good ownership, and they're always competitive. But, Joe, is Brad Stevens failing upward? Because he's responsible for the locker room. The locker room was a disaster, and Brad Stevens now got promoted, and he trades Kemba Walker to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Al Horford, and they gave up their first-round pick. How does this make the Celtics better, short-term or long-term?
Well, I think that might reveal a little bit more about the Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens relationship. Maybe Brad Stevens wanted to keep Al Horford all along. And I think when you unload a huge contract like Kemba Walker's contract, that's a win for Boston. So I think they're in transition. I mean, the two things they can hold on to if you're a Celtics fan is you have 2 of the most exciting young players in the league with Jason Tatum and also having Brown in your squad. So that's 2 great building blocks to build around. And if they're able to create some kind of free agency buzz and bring somebody in, I think that maybe what we might be seeing is, could it be possible that Brad Stevens is a better executive than he was a head coach? Maybe.
Yeah, I just think that, again, when you go to Boston, it's a tradition of winning. Jeffrey, did you like this move of getting rid of Kemba Walker? And what does that say? Like Joe just said, maybe Danny Ainge and him weren't on the same page, and I could see that. But why was the locker room so bad?
Well, Monty, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you fine.
Okay, good. Well, I looked at Kemba Walker's salary stats. He was due to be paid $36 million next season, and a player option for $37 million next season. We're talking about a guy who was kind of a marginal star, so with the Celtics kind of in between, you can't really blame them for making the move. They don't get that much back in return, but it's more in terms of what they're giving up. I think you had a situation of there being too many egos with Anye and Stevens. They're men of different generations. Stevens is more of the younger man, statistical, sabermetric, whatever you want to call it. Stoic line of thinking. Anye's more like believing in Moneyball, gotta go with your gut, and those two more and more the statisticians are going to win today. So I think Stevens, he just doesn't really have very much charisma with the team. So he's probably better situated being the coach, the executive. But they need to find the right head coach. As Joe was talking about, they have some good building blocks to build around, but they're going to have to do it pretty much from scratch because all the draft picks they got from the Nets trades, with that terrible trade from this point of view,
Yeah.
doesn't really worked out. Monty like 10 first-round draft picks, and what do they got to show for it, right?
No, you're right about that. Okay, Dom, you're next up. Can I just say, look, you give me Kemba Walker, I take Al Horford straight up, and that's a win-win. Obviously, OKC needs offense. Al Horford's a good locker room guy. Why throw in the 16th pick of the draft?
Because Kemba Walker's contract, I feel like that's kind of really the one thing that made this kind of like, because if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, like I don't necessarily think like aging players, which Kemba Walker isn't like super old, but he's getting old by NBA standards, right? Taking on an aging player like that when you're kind of a team that's trying to rebuild, you're extremely youthful, you're very young, but Kemba doesn't bring that leadership standpoint that Chris Paul did to them last year, right? So you kind of have to sweeten the deal, especially with the contract that Kemba Walker has. I think it makes Oklahoma City a little bit more exciting. I don't know how much better it makes them as a team. As far as Al Horford going back to the Celtics, I think it makes a ton of sense for them. I do think that was a situation that Brad Stevens never really wanted to get rid of Al Horford. And to the Brad Stevens point, I think it does make sense. I think this is an odd situation where it makes sense to promote him to this job because I think Brad Stevens is great with X's and O's. I think he understands fit. I think he never really was able to manage, like you said, manage egos and manage players' emotions. And I think that was kind of where, especially after they've had some, by their standards, what they probably felt were some disappointing outcomes in the playoffs. It's very easy to lose a locker room like that. So I think putting him in a situation where he's just managing the X's and O's and, getting guys in, having someone else there to coach the team makes a ton of sense.
All right, Tyrese, I used to coach college basketball, and I've told the story before. We got paid from September to March. I gave the guys off in March. I was an assistant coach. We gave them off in April. We started May, June, July, August, 4 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'd go up there at 4 o'clock. We'd work out in the gym from 4 to 5, and then we'd do drills from 5 to 6:30. The players respected me because I was there. We had guys come in who didn't show up all summer. They come in first day of practice. They start yelling, and the players would be like, Monty, I'm going to punch this guy in the face. And I'd be like, don't yell at him. You haven't been here. My point is, when players don't respect someone, okay, someone said to Blake Griffin, don't come here. It's a disaster. If, let's say, Brad Stevens, they didn't respect him, how are they going to respect him when he's making moves now when they didn't like him in the first place? Shouldn't the Celtics have gotten rid of both Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens?
I mean, being a head coach and being an exec is two different things at the end of the day. But I can see the standpoint of respect for the players that the players have for Brad Stevens at the end of the day. But I feel that some players, players are going to respect Brad Stevens no matter what position he's in. If he's an exec, if he's a coach, if he's the owner or whatever. So I feel
what I'm saying is, if they told Blake Griffin not to come to Boston because that was his first choice, there's something really wrong in that locker room. And as the head coach, Brad Stevens responsible.
He is responsible, and I feel he should take responsibility for that. But at the end of the day, we don't know who said what. At the end, it could be somebody who weren't getting any minutes, or somebody that probably felt like they didn't really have a specific role within that offense. No, offense revolves around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It could be somebody on the outside saying, "Oh, don't come here because you're not going to get the ball as much." It could be somebody. It could just be somebody on the outside looking in, and
it might have even been Kemba Walker. How do we know it wasn't Kemba Walker?
We'll never know. It was an anonymous. It was an anonymous caller from our perspective. So, yeah.
Okay. Final question here. Do you think the Celtics are in good position moving forward, or they're in trouble because you look around the East with the Hawks, the Bucks are going to be good for a while, the Brooklyn Nets? Are the Celtics on the back nine right now? Are they a third tier team in the East?
I think they are actually. Looking forward to next season, the Celtics. I don't really think that they'll make a strong push to be one of the best teams in the East. It's 4-team race, maybe 5-team race at this point. The Celtics for me are in a rebuilding stage. I mean, like we have 2 building blocks: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. That's good and all. Got rid of Kemba Walker, but Al Horford for me doesn't really do too much. Yes, he can hit the occasional outside shot. Yes, he can give you 12 and 7 a night, but he's 34 years old, doesn't play good defense to me, and he doesn't have that much energy. So for the Celtics, I think their main goal would be to get a head coach in, one that Brad Stevens would like. That's most important. And then secondly, you have to find a way to get the most out of the players around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And that would be, hopefully they can compete for maybe a 6th through 8th seed, but I don't exactly see the Celtics making a strong push to be a relevant team or a strong team in the East next season.
I would try to go after Chauncey Billups. I think he could recruit players right away, or Mark Jackson. Try to get them in Boston. Because let's face it, if they're giving up their first-round pick this year and they keep winning 45, 50 games, you never be one of those teams who's 6 through 8 because you're not good enough to advance, but you're also not bad enough to build through the draft. Okay, let's move. I know you guys are not going to agree with me on this, but I when Kevin Durant shot an air ball to lose the game, he didn't get any flack. Not one. Not everyone was like, "Oh, he was exhausted. He was tired." It's understandable. If LeBron James shot an air ball, if Devin Booker shot an air ball, Chris Paul, the critics would be hammering. The ball was in your best player's hands, and you shoot an air ball in Game 7? Are you kidding me? This is what you work in the offseason for. This is what kids dream about. Kevin Durant had a chance to win it, and he shoots an air ball, and no one is criticizing him. Let's start with you, Tyrese.
I'm very torn on this situation because I feel that Kevin Durant did leave everything out on the floor, and the last shot was just an accumulation of.
Listen, I would again. I am so angry about this. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but
nah, you're good.
If Jordan goes 6 for 22 against Utah in Game 6 and then hits the final shot, no one cares. I don't care that Kevin Durant scored 40 points. The ball is in your hands, and you shoot an air ball.
Mm-hmm. There's no excuse for that kind of shot. First of all, Kevin Durant took a very difficult shot. He tried to repeat the same exact shot that he took to take it into overtime before, but it just didn't work. Kevin Durant didn't have any rhythm going into that overtime, and I feel he really didn't have no business taking that shot to begin with. So Kevin Durant is, he's not getting as much flack as he should for that kind of shot. I feel that, I'm still ripped in between because I'm not really upset at him for taking that kind of shot because he was the only one that was really shooting at that point. And plus going into that overtime, nobody really was producing. So he had to try to get something on the board. But by that time, it was he was on his last leg. So it's still no excuse, though. I get what you're saying, Monty. It's still no excuse.
Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City because the organization has sided with Westbrook. They would rather have Russell Westbrook. Kevin Durant goes to Golden State. He's the MVP in 2 finals, but he leaves because he's not getting the credit. It's Steph Curry's team. Well, now it's all in your hands, dude, and you shoot an air ball. That cannot be forgiven. In the history of basketball, I don't think Larry Bird ever shot an air ball to win a game. I mean, especially in the playoffs. Joe, come on, man. I know you love KD, but you got to criticize him here.
Nah, I'm not.
How are you not, Joe?
Not at all. Not at all. That guy carried and dragged that team into overtime. The shot he made to tie the game, he can't duplicate it if you gave him 20 attempts to duplicate it. And if it wasn't KD taking that last shot for Brooklyn, who was it going to be? Joe, I can't find the rim to save my life, Harris. Was it going to be Blake Griffin, who's kind of inconsistent from the outside? It was all on KD. Could he have gotten a better shot and maybe got himself in a better position for like a mid-range jumper around the free throw line? Yeah, probably. But he did what he thought was best at the time. But I have no issue with it at all. I would have had more issue with somebody else.
Time out.
besides KD
Kobe Bryant would go 6 for 30, but he would hit the game-winning shot. No one cared. I remember one time in an All-Star game, LeBron dribbled. It was one-on-one, him and Kobe, for the game-winning shot, and LeBron passed it, and everyone yelled at him. They wanted him to shoot. They wanted him to make it. No one cares that Kevin Durant scored 40 points. I know he carried the team.
I care.
Okay. So everyone gets a trophy, right? So, Dom, you make your bones in the NBA by being clutch. The greatest lie in the history of the NBA is LeBron James is not clutch. LeBron James over the last, I think, 7 years in the playoffs is 12 for 23 in game-winning or game-leading shots. There's like 4 or 5 guys who are like 6 for 25, not even in the top. So, Dom, Kevin Durant does not deserve a pass here. Am I crazy?
Yeah. if you want me to be honest here, listen, I get what you're saying. To mention Kobe Bryant, I watched Kobe Bryant airball back-to-back shots in the playoffs at the end of the game very early in his career, right? Back-to-back shots. So I get it.
Not in his prime in a Game 7. Not in his prime in a Game 7.
You're right, but Kevin Durant also scored the most points in NBA history in a Game 7 that night as well. And had his feet been 2 inches back from where they were in the fourth quarter, that series would have been over. I cannot blame him because one shot that he took that night was airball. Now, so let me ask you this. If it would have hit the rim, would it be okay? Is it just the fact that it was an airball, or was it the fact that he missed the shot?
It's the fact that Kevin Durant wants to be the guy. He wants to be the guy. That's why he left OKC. That's why he left Golden State. You want to be the guy, and you shoot an airball? Jeffrey, I'm not having it. I'm not. Am I crazy?
Yes, Monty, you're crazy. I would not want Monty. I would not want you to be my English teacher because I feel like I read a 100-page masterpiece, but I forget to put the last period there. You give me a big F. I mean, this is the guy. He shot the first 45, 15, 10 game in NBA playoff history in Game 5. I will criticize him for not playing. The team did not play very well in Game 6 when they could have pulled up the series right then and there. They figured, we got these guys at home. So that was disappointing to me. But I was listening to a podcast today. Kevin Durant he's a size 17 foot. He wears a size 18 shoe because he feels it gives him a little bit more room to work around the court. Had he not chosen that size of shoe, it would have been over. So, yes, he missed that one shot. Yeah, but keep in mind, Kyrie Irving was out the last 4 games. Didn't play a second. James Harden wasn't nearly what he should have been. James Harden wasn't what he should have been, period. So, Kevin Durant, that last shot was disappointing. They wouldn't have even been in that situation if it weren't for KD. Now, I think he needs to show maybe a little bit more leadership, maybe not quite as assertive as you would have liked to see someone like LeBron being the big motor mouth. I know people tend to hate LeBron for that kind of thing, but the results really do. So that said, Monty, KD did play more of a supplemental role in Golden State. Now he's trying to be his own in charge of his own brigade, not being quite so successful as first time. But I got no problem for what Kevin Durant did in Game 7. Just couldn't quite get that one shot.
Edwin, he shot an air ball to win it in Game 7. If anyone with a history of struggling in the playoffs, okay, if Ben Simmons did this, you would say, Ben Simmons, you're a joke. I mean, guys, I'm all for. I don't care. Ben Simmons is great in 3 quarters.
Shouldn't be taking the last shot.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm not. Giannis is great in 3 quarters. He can't make a free throw. He can't shoot a 3. Right. Yeah. So, Chris Paul has a history of failing in the playoffs. He can't win the big game. If Chris Paul shoots an air ball in Game 7 against the Clippers to win it, Edwin, they would kill him. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all, actually. So I actually agree with you, Monty. KD gets no pass here for me. So Jordan dropped 60 points against the Celtics. What did he do? He got swept, right? Doesn't matter what he did performance-wise. He got swept regardless. Same thing here applies for KD. I want to go back to the last play of the game where KD takes his last shot. So you have Giannis on the floor, Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, Jrue Holiday, and Tucker. So you really want KD taking that shot over Pat Connaughton and Jrue Holiday, right? Drew Holiday is a good defender, but he doesn't have the size advantage that KD does. So it should be shooting practice over him, right? Credit to Drew Holiday. He forced KD into a bad shot, an air ball. But the fact that it was air ball makes it much worse, considering that he had a considerable size advantage over.
Drive, or you know what? Listen, drive. You're going to get fouled. You're a 90% free throw shooter. KD settled. They used to talk about LeBron settling all the time. KD settled on that shot, and you guys love Kevin Durant, so you're not criticizing him.
You know why he settled? He was tired. He's
okay.
Games where he played more than 50 minutes. Had no legs. I'm not driving to the rim. I'm just going to settle for this J.
LeBron cramped up. People were like, oh, my God, he's not in shape. Okay, people don't know this. Jordan cramped up in a playoff game, too, but we didn't have social media on that. So we pay again, if Kevin Durant stayed in Oklahoma, stayed in Golden State, and missed that shot, you say, you know what, Kevin? But he wanted to be the man. That's why he left OKC. He wanted to be the man. That's why he left Golden State. Now he's the man. Game on the line. You're the guy, and you shoot an air ball. I'm not forgiving him for it.
Neither am I.
Thank you.
It won't be his only opportunity, Monty, to get a game-winning shot. And I mean, people forget about that series against the Cavs in the finals. Who hit the game-winning shot over LeBron James was KD.
100%. But again, KD, even though he won the MVP, he had Steph and Clay. This was his shining, because this is what he wanted, right? He could have stayed in Oklahoma City if he didn't want to be the guy. He could have stayed in Golden State if he didn't want to be the guy. Now he's the guy, and he shoots an air ball.
That's
okay.
I don't understand how that diminishes what he had. He had a fantastic season to come back from a ruptured Achilles.
He had a great season.
The air ball doesn't finish anything. He's done it all, in my opinion.
I would rather have a guy shoot like Drew Holiday, who was 4 for 20, and then in the fourth quarter hit a big three, hit a big jump shot. I don't care what you do for 3 quarters. Show me the money in the fourth quarter. Okay, speaking of show me the money, Zion Williams appears he wants out of New Orleans. Here's the question, and we'll start with you, Dom. If you're the Pelicans, we've all had relationships or we've all been in jobs where it's just not working, right? And the question is, do you hold on until you both hate each other in the relationship? Do you hold on until you start pulling out of work? Your work suffers, you become miserable, or do you just rip it off the Band-Aid? The Pelicans need to trade him now while they can get value for him.
No, I'm not trading Zion at all. It's way too early. I've had Zion Williamson for 2-3 years now at this point, and he really has yet to experience a full NBA season. No, I'm not trading him. Now, I do think the bigger problem here was the coaching hire.
Terrible. I
never thought Van Gundy was a good move. I never thought it was a good fit. I think if you get him a proper head coach, and because when you look at the Pelicans, they have some talent there. I think they at times they don't play inspired. I feel like a part of that was because of Van Gundy. But no, I'm not trying. Listen, I can understand you're a little bit upset right now. That's cool. I get it. You see some of your other counterparts that were drafted ahead of you or drafted around the same time they're making it to the playoffs. Yes, they're also on better teams than you are. Now that's up to the Pelicans to build a team around him. But I don't think that they're that far off from making it to the playoffs, right? We've seen it. They've been in that kind of grouping the past couple years. I think if you can get a full season out of him or close to a full season out of him, he's going to deal with some knickknacks here. But I think you get a good head coach, they'll be right in the playoffs. And then all of this talk of him being disgruntled will be a foregone conclusion. It will be water under the bridge.
All right, Joe, listen, Brad brings up a good point here. We can't keep giving in to this, guys, but here's what I'll say. The NBA lifestyle, the NFL lifestyle, the Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, the average playing career is less than 5 years. So if I'm Zion Williams and I'm like, look, you drafted me. It's not like I went to you, okay? I'm unhappy here. I'll be a good soldier. I won't say anything until you trade me, but get me out of here. Joe, do you trade him when you can, or do you agree with Dom that, look, you're stuck here?
Oh, I agree with Dom. You're 20 years old. I've only had it for 2 years. Shut up. The report said the report that I saw, multiple reports, was family members want Zion Williams out of New Orleans. Who's the family member? Is it Aunt Rosa? Is it Uncle Rico? Zion didn't say anything himself. Control your career, control the narrative, come out and say, yeah, I want to be traded, or you come out and say, I don't want to be traded. My family's speaking out of pocket. the Pelicans aren't that far off. I mean, Brandon Ingram was an all-star, most improved player, had a pretty solid season this year. They made a horrible decision at coach. You got to count this season as a mulligan because they made a bad decision at coach. You can't make a bad decision this time. You've got to get it right.
But
if you
Joe,
don't coaching and hiring right this time, then I definitely can understand if they have another season like this past season, another up and down season, another bad coach hiring, then I could see Zion himself and not a random family member coming out and saying he wants out.
Okay, Jeffrey, if the Pelicans made a bad choice by hiring this guy, okay, by hiring Stan Van Gundy, why should Zion have any confidence? They fired him after 1 year. So it was definitely, it wasn't working on the court, and it was obviously working something off the court that they didn't like. So if I'm Zion and I'm like, hey, you brought this guy in promising us that we'd get to the playoffs and we do what he says. We did what he said. Let's be honest, Zion had a great year this year. He played very well. So, Jeffrey, why shouldn't Zion want to leave? It's a terrible organization. They've never won. They couldn't keep Anthony Davis. Maybe Zion's seeing the writing on the wall. And to Joe's point, Kawhi Leonard's family is the one, his uncle said, hey, he wants out of San Antonio.
Yeah, Monty, I agree. I think what we're seeing now in the NBA, we're seeing a level of empowerment that people have long wanted in America, but it's taken a long time to get there. But what fans know, no one goes to the game to see the owner or see the coaches or see the front office. They come to see the players. And it's only until very recently the players started to get any sort of a leverage. We saw in baseball, there was the reserve clause where you were tied to a team for life. And even later, there were like 10 different options before you could actually be traded to another team. But now the NBA is perfect. If you're a big enough name player, you get to choose where you play for. Isn't that what capitalism is all about, right? You don't like your employer, you go work for a different employer, right? So it's not that hard.
Yeah. All right. Tyrese, my whole thing is, look, it's not going to work. Zion is not going to be happy. If this is being leaked right now, it's being leaked for a reason. So my only argument is like, hey, man, you want out? I have Brandon Ingram who's going to drop 25 a night. We could get a plethora of picks and talent for Zion. The Knicks are already talking about changing R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, giving the house basically for Zion. So why shouldn't the Pelicans do what they thought they were doing with Anthony Davis, trade a disgruntled player and get a bunch of talent back?
It's way too early in Zion's career for him to make demands like that. And plus, if we didn't hear Zion directly say he wanted out of New Orleans, then all things are go for New Orleans. So I feel that Zion is in a position for his team where he can go to his front office and tell them what he needs in order for him to stay happy within New Orleans. So I feel that they have the pieces to make the playoffs. They're just a couple big free agents away from making the playoffs, to be honest, or a couple trades away from making the playoffs. Zion has to be patient. His fans have to understand that this NBA and winning, it takes time. You have to be patient with franchises. I feel that Zion needs a couple more years before, he can say that, okay, maybe I won. It's been 2 years. He's 20. He's young. He's a baby in the league. He still needs time. He still has room to grow. He still has room to grow within the organization. So I feel he should just be patient, and I feel that he should go to the front office and actually see what's happening behind the scenes instead of just like, oh, I don't want to be here. It was just one bad coaching hire. Say if they hire somebody different, things turn out for the better. Now Zion's happy. We never know what can happen with the NBA. Everything takes time, and everything is a process within the.
Okay, but when you come from Duke, you come from a winning program, you want to win right away. Edwin, so you close this out. People saying, oh, it's only been 1 year. Zion's been there 2 years. He doesn't like it. Why keep him there? Would you trade him if you're the general manager? Or are you saying, you know what? I'm just going to put my head in the sand and we're going to make this work?
I would not trade Zion. Like, you can't trade Zion, man. Seriously, the New Orleans Pelicans, that market is so small, you won't get any big name free agents. That's one. And two, Zion is as good as it gets since Anthony Davis. So the blueprint is simple for me, right? Find a coach, find a guy that can get the most out of the players around Zion, and then, you can make Zion happy by sort of competing for the West, 7th, 8th seed, maybe sneaking into the playoffs. That should be the goal for me. But I think that it should be as simple as getting pieces around Zion. That's 1, 2. Getting a coach like Charles Lee, who I've been advocating for, to get that moving and that coaching hire. He would be a good fit for me in New Orleans. And just follow the Pacers blueprint. Like, last year, Nick McMillan, he had the Pacers playing strong, hard. They were 4th seed last year. They were playing hard. TJ Warren was a problem. Now look where he's at. He's nowhere to be found. That all had to do with, to me, McMillan and his coaching success and the Pacers uniform. So they can do the same thing with Charles Lee or a different coach who can get the most out of the players. And so far, they play harder in the West and hopefully compete for a 7th or 8th seed.
Listen, if I'm the Pelicans, I trade them. You guys aren't agreeing with me with anything. You're probably not going to agree with me about this next topic either, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm an Oregon Duck fan, right? I love the Oregon Ducks. Obviously, you could tell by my background, I'm a huge Oregon Duck guy. Everything in my room is Oregon Duck, Green Bay Packers. All right, but I know each year that the basketball team, they may win a Pac-12 championship. They may get to the Sweet 16, that's it. I know their football team is going to win 9 or 10 games. They're not good enough to, especially with their coach, he's terrible. They're not good enough, despite the talent they get, to win a national title. I'm going to say the same thing about the Utah Jazz. I called this. I think Dom agreed with me. They just don't have the wings. The Utah Jazz are a nice team. They're a nice team. They're not going to get dominant free agents. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to go to the Knicks or maybe go to Brooklyn if they break that team up. He's coming back east. Edwin, you have the Jazz going to the finals. This is the best it's going to get. So I don't want to hear Quinn Snyder getting fired. They're just a 50-win team, and they're going to lose every year in the second round of the playoffs.
So I'm going to come out here once again and defend the Utah Jazz. Last year they were without Bogey, had a hand wrist injury. This year they were without Mike Conley. And when a series gets tough as it did against the Clippers, you need your best players to perform. You need your best players to be there. That wasn't the case this year for the Jazz. And I thought that they were playing some good basketball even without Mike Conley, 2-0, going to Los Angeles, feeling good about themselves. And I just thought that there was some simple coaching changes that Quinn Snyder could have made that if he would have made, they could have won the game 6, and then they would have taken care of them in game 7. So for me, the Utah Jazz, I still do believe in them. I still do believe that they find someone, a wing defender and agency who could do a simple job, come in and defend, then this team will be back the same thing next year, and they'll actually have a better chance of competing for a title.
Okay. Joe, you agree with that. We'll go to you next. You think the Utah Jazz, who haven't gotten to a final since Stockton and Malone, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, right? If you're an NBA player, you're African-American, why the hell would you want to go to Utah, which is a great environment for basketball, but outside that, it's filled with Mormons and has a history of racism? That's really why free agents don't go there. Let's call it like it is. It's like 2% of African-American population. So, Joe, I'm fine with Utah winning 50 games. I'm fine with them going to the second round. But all these fans who are like calling for Quinn Snyder and we need to do this, they're not winning a championship, Joe, in the next 20 years.
I mean, you make a valid point. If I was an NBA free agent, Utah would be very low on my list of places to go. I think the one thing that could possibly change that narrative is Donovan Mitchell. I think that he seems to, from what you hear him say, the way he plays in the basketball court, interviews, committed to the Utah Jazz. I've heard of random uncle or random aunt or cousin of his say he wants out of Utah and wants to be traded like some other people. So I think that having a superstar like him on your team can make Utah an attractive free agent destination. Now he's gonna have to convince these guys that, hey, when the season's over, you might want to get the hell out of Dodge. But during the season, it's a nice place to stay. Definitely has a great environment with fans, even though their fans have a pretty rocky history. Think about some of those issues they had with Russell Westbrook and some of the other stories we heard that came out about Jazz fans. But I think if anybody can change that narrative as far as that being a place people don't want to go, it's Mitchell. And Jazz better hope and pray he doesn't wake up one day and say, I want out of here.
Listen, Dom, there aren't that many African-American Mormons, right? This is what I'm talking about. Utah is that one state that's just they're a little bit out there. But, you bring up Donovan Mitchell. Jordan Clarkson's a nice player. Rudy Gobert, I think Rudy Gobert stays there. We're seeing a lot of European players with Dirk Nowitzki. We see a lot of European players. They're so appreciative to be drafted. They stay loyal to the team. But, Dom, I don't see a quick fix for this Utah Jazz team because I think you look at the landscape now with Phoenix young and getting better. Memphis is young and getting better. If Donovan Mitchell leaves, this franchise is going to be crippled for a decade.
Oh, yeah. If Mitchell gets up one day and decides, hey, I want out, the Jazz will fall back into irrelevancy. But I don't think they're that far off. Now, the biggest thing so far for the Jazz has been, one, injuries, right? But two, they thought they were getting a true number two. Like, they thought they were getting a Robin to Mitchell's Batman when they got Mike Conley, and he just hasn't been that. He hasn't been that guy really that he was in Memphis. And granted, that's expected, for his age. They need wings, and specifically they need a wing who can defend, but also they need someone who can help shoulder this load with Donovan Mitchell. If they can't do that, they have no chance. Even if they do that, for the fact that you play in the Western Conference, which is so ridiculously loaded. I mean, the Lakers are going to be there as long as LeBron is there. You have the Denver Nuggets, who, as long as they have Jokic, are going to be a problem. Even with what's going on in Portland right now, as long as they have Damian Lillard, they're going to make some noise. Dallas is getting better. Memphis is getting better. The Suns might win a championship this year, right? So, like, the West is so ridiculously loaded. You have to you're still missing a couple pieces, and then you have to figure out if those pieces are good enough to make it through this absolutely stacked West.
Jeffrey, can I take some of the blame of Utah's success and failures for Rudy Gobert? He can shoot a 15-foot jump shot. He has no low post games. He's a shot blocker and a screen and roll guy. He's a lot like Clint Capella, except he's longer. Rudy Gobert, how about getting a post-up game?
Okay, the microphone game and not licking and touching every single one and causing the whole league to shut down, right? Well, I don't think the Jazz, they strike me as just kind of a limited team. I wouldn't point the finger at any one player. The best similarity is, I just saw a great comment there by our friend Greg. They're like the Houston Rockets team that almost made the NBA Finals, and in Game 7 they missed 25 or however many it was, threes in a row.
27, I think, threes.
Yeah, good God. They missed 27 threes in a row. That's because you can't make the finals just by playing the three-point percentages. You need to have some sort of player who is big enough to as I was also with Kevin Durant and did see with Giannis in Game 7, or LeBron, God knows how many times. They need that big star player to step forward, make the play, get the big effort in Game 6 or Game 7, and get that team past the last round. What we did, that's what we did not see in Game 6 against the Clippers. The Jazz had a big lead at halftime, but the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard wasn't even in the game. It was Paul George, the much maligned, never played well in the playoffs. He stepped up. The Clippers had a more well-rounded team. Wasn't just threes, just blasted past the Jazz in the second half. The Jazz,
81-47, they outscored them. 81-47. By the way, Jeffrey, the GOAT returns. People miss you over the last few weeks, so we're very happy you're back. All right, Tyrese, close this out.
you.
Are we firing Quinn Snyder, or is this the best they could do?
After I saw Terrence Mann go off for 40 points and make no adjustments, I would fire him. I don't think that Quinn Snyder actually, was able to make those adjustments mid-game, because there's my thing I feel that's going on. You're keeping Gobert out there because he's Defensive Player of the Year. That's fine. But when you're in a game and you see somebody that's hindering your defense, you get him out and adjust. So Quinn Snyder didn't make those adjustments, and throughout the playoffs, the first two games they played were absolutely magnificent, considering the fact that they shot well. But outside of that, this team has no consistent offense. No sets are being ran. People are coming down, pulling from deep. Donovan Mitchell is shooting way beyond his range. In the first half, they shoot well. The second half, they're completely cold behind the line. And I feel that part of it is because there's no real playmaker on the team, really trying to get everybody involved. It's a bunch of scorers, a bunch of shooters trying to find their shot and their rhythm. And I feel that they got their rhythm out in the first half, and in the second half, they just completely disappeared. They lived and died by the three. And that was a perfect example for people that always hear that. Just watch the highlights of those games, and you will understand what living and dying by the three is.
Yeah, they certainly did. Greg's been screaming about that all through the playoffs. All right, guys, we're going to go through rapid fire on free agents here, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll break down the Eastern Conference and Western Conference final. You're watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube with the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel, and definitely give us a thumbs up on this particular show. All right, Joe, we'll start with you. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see DeMar DeRozan, Joe, because he can't shoot the three. It is literally another player who's just going to clog up the paint. He's a mid-range guy, cannot shoot the three. Where do you think DeMar DeRozan ends up? Do you want him in the Laker uniform playing with LeBron?
I don't think he ends up with the Lakers. The two teams I think that could end up with him is I could see him going to a New York and I could see him going to a Boston.
Yeah. I think he'd be a real good fit in Boston.
Yeah, I think how could the Lakers go bigger as far as in terms of a bigger name? I don't know how, but I think if they're going to bring somebody in, I think Los Angeles is going to really try to make a splash.
Okay, good, Joe. I totally agree with that. I didn't even think about Boston until right now, especially with Kemba Walker going. They have some salary cap. They don't really need 3-point shooting, so that's good. Okay, Dom, where is Kyle Lowry ending up? Look at this here. They have him going to the Miami Heat, the Clippers, Philly. Where's he ending up going?
Well, we spoke about this before. The team that I think needs him the most and I think would benefit from having him the most is Los Angeles, but not the Clippers, the Lakers. I know we just tried to send DeMar DeRozan there. Kyle Lowry operates best when he is not the number one option, specifically in the postseason. He'd be a third option. None of that pressure would be on him. He would have a little bit more responsibility to run the offense, take some of that off of LeBron so he can focus on being aggressive. I think it fits well. I think he brings championship mentality and the fact that he's won before. I think it makes a ton of sense for him to go to the Lakers.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I don't know how they would do it. Okay, Edwin, since you picked the Jazz to win the title, where is Mike Conley ending up?
I think he's actually going to re-sign with the Jazz. Mike Conley, for me, he had a great season this past year, all-star year for him. He just had a little injury bug when it came to the playoffs. I thought he would have been a great addition in the Clippers series, but you saw that he wasn't himself in Game 6. But I don't see him fitting in any other system other than the Jazz at this point. They have the 3-point ball, obviously, but he is the one that controls the pace of the game. He's the one that controls the whole outlook of the game on the offense. And you can see that Donovan Mitchell was missing him a lot. He had to be the focal point, run the offense, try and get other teammates involved, and his presence was missed greatly. So for me, Mike Conley, I think he does do an extension for Utah.
All right, Tyrese, where is Lonzo Ball going to end up?
Boston Celtics to replace Kemba Walker, and I feel that that's a player that will most definitely fit that system because you get a playmaker in Lonzo Ball, you get somebody that can score when he needs to. Lonzo is consistently getting better, and also your roster's getting younger. You feel that point guard role with somebody that's young, somebody that has very high upside, and somebody that could possibly lead you. Well, not lead, but be a very good third option going into playoffs. And I feel that Lonzo would be a very good fit in Boston.
I like that. That's a great answer. I like it. All right, Jeffrey, I'm higher on this player than most. Jared Allen, solid. He could be a 17, 18, and 12 rebound guy. Where do you see him going, and why do you think he has not? I mean, listen, the Nets traded him. They brought in DeAndre Jordan to kind of mentor him. Are you as high on him as I am, or do you think he's just a role player at best at this point, even though he's still young?
I do think he's a role player. And listen, I'm no Nostradamus. My predictions for Nuts and Bolts Sports, they've always come up being just horrible. So please don't. I don't care what the laws in your state. Don't go to the bookie based on my advice. But I think that Jared Allen will stay in Cleveland because, first of all, Cleveland strikes me the mistake on the lake, the type of team which would drastically overpay for a player like Allen because he's comfortable with the fans. All right, let's go ahead and give him this big contract. Now we got our guy. Then he goes out and plays well, but not well enough to justify the 9-figure contract, right?
Yeah, I like him in Cleveland. I like him staying. Yeah. But you like him as a player, right? I mean, he's a good rebounder. He can finish inside. He's big. He's athletic.
Yeah. He brings a lot to
He's starting to shoot now too.
Finally, the one guy who I don't know where he's going to end up, but Dennis Schroeder will not be back with the Los Angeles Lakers. Apparently, he fell out of favor during the postseason, which a lot of Lakers had. I thought he had a phenomenal year. He was 15-5-5 guy. Joe, where's he ending up? New York?
I don't know. I think he burnt a lot of bridges in the playoffs with just some of the comment. Another one of those, just keep on going back to this Zion thing. When you got random family members and friends leaking stuff to the media and you're not saying whether it's true or not yourself, it just damaged goods. I think his performance in the playoffs and the taste he left in people's mouth, and what we have remembering about him in the playoffs with the Lakers might have hurt him a little bit. I mean, this guy wants a whole lot of money, and there's a lot of teams in the NBA that are point guard hungry. That could definitely use a solid point guard. But based on what we saw these last playoffs, is that the guy you want as your point guard?
Yeah, no.
I'd rather have a Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, no, he wants number 2 option money, and I don't see how he gets it. All right, real quick, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll talk about the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. I want to talk about 2 teams that really, really underachieved in this playoff series. One, James Harden had the nerve to come out and say, we need to take better care of our bodies. James Harden in this picture is like one cheeseburger away from being a complete circle. Let's be honest. He came into Houston like James Harden is telling people, we need to be in better shape. I always said in the opening, Dinwiddie turned down $12.3 million. Tyrese, where are they going to get players? Because I don't think Blake Griffin's going to re-sign. They have a bunch of guys who are going to leave. Where are they going?
I mean, at the end of the day, somebody's gonna have to take that pay cut. If you want to sign some people to be able to help with that championship that you want to get so bad, I feel that somebody has to take that pay cut. And whoever steps up and decides to say, "Hey, I'll take a few mil off my contract to sign a couple of role players," might as well. It's you already made your money in the NBA. There's no point in you looking for big supermax contracts at this point. Try to take a pay cut. Get you some role players and try to work for this championship.
All right, Dom, I think the Nets are in big trouble because we saw in the playoffs when you have Kevin Durant playing 48 minutes, you just can't do it. Their bench sucked this year. I mean, Landry Shamit's a nice player. Jeff Green's a free agent. He's probably going to leave. Who could they sign at a minimum dollars and going to make an impact?
I think I kind of agree with Tyrese here. I think you will find people. Now, who you find is going to be the question, right? But they will find people who are going to be willing to take. I don't think everyone's going to leave, right? I feel like there are still some players that will stick around. Personally, and this is kind of on a whole nother tangent, I felt like this team didn't need James Harden. I felt like them trading for him was a big mistake. I felt like I loved their depth and what they had originally. But as long as the Nets have KD, Kyrie, and Harden, you're going to find people that are going to want to play with them because they're going to look at that. They're going to look at that big 3 and say, hey, yeah, I may lose a couple million playing for them, but I'm probably going to win a championship if they stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, he turned down 12.3 coming off an ACL. Jeffrey, money on the line. Who's a better team going into next year, the Milwaukee Bucks or the Brooklyn Nets?
I would say Brooklyn Nets as long as everyone stays healthy, and that's a big if. That was a great pick. You had Monty of James Harden. It's almost like he's the punchline or the straight man of the joke. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the stat lines, they're just amazing. But he just always has these cheap tricks. Like his trademark, all it was good for in Game 6 or Game 7 would go, whoa, good draw foul and go to the line. We're not gonna win a Game 7 just by making a flop and going to the line.
All right, Edwin. Look, people want to blame Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has the worst record in Game 7s than any coach. But I'm going to be honest with you. How do you blame Doc Rivers when Ben Simmons missed 48 free throws in the series? 48. Just to give it to some perspective, Steve Kerr missed 44 free throws in the playoffs in his career. The Brooklyn Nets missed 28 free throws. The Phoenix Suns missed 29. Ben Simmons missed 48 free throws. So how can I blame the coach on that?
So Doc Rivers still deserves some type of blame. I would say 70-30 Ben Doc, only because he has been notorious for blowing big leads, and obviously once again he adds another blemish to his resume as a head coach. But for Ben Simmons, I mean, atrocious. Like, I really question, and I don't believe myself, if he could be the starting point guard on a championship side. When you take only 3 shots in the fourth quarter for a combined 7 games, that's atrocious. That's terrible. And it's not even the fact that he's not taking the shots. It's the fact that he's not being aggressive enough for me. Like, take a look at Giannis, take a look at Lonzo Ball. These guys worked from where they were before coming into the league to where they are now. Lonzo Ball has increased immensely, right? Giannis, you question his shot selection a couple times, but he at least tries. Ben Simmons, for me, he needs to be traded immediately. I say that they go for a guy like Kyle Lowry who they can put on the squad. He could be that one missing piece. Give them some time with Embiid to go and win a championship. But for Ben Simmons, he needs a new first start because you can see he lost his confidence while being in the 76ers shirt.
Joe, it's just not working, right? It's just not working. Ben, I don't think Ben Simmons cares. I've said this numerous times. It's just a job to him. He has money. Joe, it's time for them to move him. But first of all, who's going to take Ben Simmons, and where do you go from here? If he doesn't want to work on his jump shot, what do you do every coach has coached a player that does the bare minimum, Joe, and Ben Simmons is doing the bare minimum.
I think if you're the Philadelphia Sixers, you have to ask yourself. It's not a simple question. Do we want to assume that for the third or fourth summer in a row, he'll finally work on his game and come back as a better player? Or do we just go ahead and cut our losses right here, right now, and move on? Because I think if you add another key piece to that team, like a Kyle Lowry or maybe even a DeMar Rosen, I think with Tobias Harris, with Joel Embiid, if he can stay healthy, did a lot better job, in my opinion, this season of staying healthy than he has in the past. The 76ers roster is not horrible. But to Edwin's point, I don't see Ben Simmons as your starting point guard for a championship team. When you spin off somebody on the baseline and got a wide open dunk and your decision to do a shovel pass to a guy that's double teamed, that's all I need to see, man. It's all in your head. I don't know what sports psychologist he can visit this summer that can get him out of this. If it's just a job to you and you don't really care about winning, number one, if that's true, you've really been exposed for thinking that way this season. So again,
and quite honestly,
is it worth waiting another season to give this guy a chance, or do we just cut our losses right now? That's the question Daryl Morey has to ask and answer.
But quite honestly, Seth Curry had some games where he was lighting it up. Okay, Joel Embiid had games where he was lighting it up. Tobias Harris did his share. The one guy who was lacking, he wasn't even in the game at the end of certain games. And for all you people who thought that Ben Simmons was a better overall player than Trae Young, it wasn't even close. Ben Simmons in the fourth quarter is a total liability. And Jeffrey, at least Giannis has evolved, right? He develops a shot. Forget about his free throw. It takes 30 seconds. I hate it. But, the involvement, you've seen every year Giannis get physically stronger and improve his game. Ben Simmons doesn't have it.
Well, Giannis has a passion for basketball, which I just don't see from Ben Simmons. You see Giannis, I was just looking at him in 7-7. Yes, he missed his first few free throws, but when the crowd started going, 1, all of a sudden, 2, 3, all of a sudden Giannis hit 7 free throws in a row, right? He actually wants to be in Milwaukee, whereas Ben Simmons, he just looks so dumb. Come on. You can't have a guy out there in the last 2 minutes who is going to miss every free throw.
Every free throw. And
nothing on Doc either with Game 5. So I think Embiid deserves a lot better.
Yeah, they did blow what was a 26-27 point lead. Okay, final question before we get to the Final Four. I'll let you guys all talk about this because I have not been high on this team since Jamal Murray went down. But the Denver Nuggets, are they at a crossroads here? Because Michael Porter is still the inconsistent guy he was in the bubble. He can shoot, he gets hot, and then he disappears for a few games. Dom, I don't like the makeup of this team, even with Jamal Murray coming back.
And it hurts me because I did have high hopes for Michael Porter Jr. However, I don't think you give up on this roster just yet. I think Michael Porter Jr. is still young, and I love the potential in him. And if he can just become consistent, right? Like if he doesn't have to become a superstar, but if he can just become a consistent second or third option, wherever you want to rank him on this Nuggets squad between him, Jokic, and Murray, if he can just be consistent, this Nuggets team can win a championship because Jokic is incredible.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Listen, Tyrese, we'll go to you. I say Denver Nuggets are not in the top 3 in the NBA next year in the Western Conference. Are they a top 3 team next year?
I mean, it's not really fair now because we have teams like we don't know what the Lakers are going to do next year. I mean, the Clippers, when Kawhi comes back, you're going to have to put them in that conversation. I mean, yeah, they're probably 4 or 5. So
But
I agree with
that's
there.
my whole point. Like they were going from NBA aspirations, and now you're wondering if you're a free agent, do you want to go to Phoenix where it's always hot, it's beautiful weather, or do you want to go to Denver where it's freezing all the time? Okay, do you want to go to LA where you're hanging out with the stars, either with the Clippers or the Lakers, or do you want to go to Denver? I mean, you look around the league. Do you want to go to Dallas and play with Porzingis, or do you want to go to Denver? That's my whole point. I think that their opportunity to win it was last year.
It was. I don't. It was last year and the year before as well in the bubble when they had Jamal Murray. But even this year, even though they were undermanned, they played a better Phoenix Suns team. I like what I see from the Nuggets, but I don't think they're not gonna make any like significant I don't think they're gonna make a finals anytime soon. They're gonna get to the playoffs consistently, maybe a conference finals, but teams are getting better in the West, so we're gonna have to compensate for that. And at the end of the day, we don't know who's going to stay healthy throughout the season. We don't know what's going on. We got to see how Jamal Murray comes back off the injury. And if Jokic is still playing on MVP level, maybe they have a chance, but I still don't see them beating the other powerhouses in the West later on in the playoffs.
I'd be remiss. At the end of the day, you see it right here. That is definitely one of our bingo drinking card games. So take a shot, take a beer. All right, Joe, you're high on Denver, right?
Yeah, I think they still have a chance. I mean, I'm not sure. Championship, the reason why I'm so high on Denver is because there's so much young talent in that team. My question for the Denver Nuggets is, do you have the right coach? I mean, think about all the guys. Think about all the players that played for the Nuggets that you were like, who's this guy? And they score 10, 15 points. Well, who the hell's this guy? 12 points. And besides Michael Porter Jr., besides Joker, besides Jamal Murray, like unless you are a lot more than a casual NBA fan, you really couldn't name more than 3 or 4 players in the Nuggets. But the rest of that roster showed us time and time again, when healthy, like I said about every other team, they have players in that team. So I question the coaching decision. Is that the right man to lead the charge?
Right. And I always say this. You look at certain teams, you look at what Monty Williams is doing, you look at what they're doing in Memphis. Their young players have gotten better every year. Now, are we saying that, Michael Porter hasn't improved that much from year 2 to year 3? So I agree with you, Joe. Maybe it's time that they tune out him in the locker room. They're tuning him out. Maybe it is time for a change because when they are healthy with Jamal Murray, they do have talent. And let's face it, all you need is 2 guys to get to the NBA Finals because the Lakers did it with LeBron, AD, and a bunch of role players. So, yeah, you make a good point. All right, last thing. Nina Hesh, who was promoted 2 years ago, is now been fired by the Lakers. Jeffrey, is she just a scapegoat? Because we're seeing injuries all over the league, and the Lakers fired her. When does Anthony Davis? When does James Harden? When do these guys take responsibility? Because it seems to me like she's just a fall girl.
Yeah, Monty, I agree. That's really sad. See, the Lakers kind of got a long history of like I read in Jeff Pearlman's book Showtime, all these ladies they hang out with the cream of the Jabbar Lakers. You can't just have the executive take the fall for the players' own failings. It's just such a lazy move by the front office. Just not even the head coach. I remember talking about Frank Vogel. Oh no, can't get rid of him. I know, let's get rid of the trainer. It's just a way the shift pieces around the deck of the Titanic where no one's noticing there's a big crack in the hull, right?
Right.
So
I don't get it. Like Anthony Davis, what is she supposed to do? Anthony Davis came into camp after winning a title, 15 pounds overweight. Like he wanted to get in shape during training camp. This isn't the 50s where you had to have a job in the off season so you couldn't work out. Like, what are you doing, man? You're firing the trainer because Anthony Davis has a pulled groin and he's made out of glass? It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
all right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. And I may have to put my Atlanta Hawks background up there just, because the trash talk is going to start to talk. You're listening to the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
All right, this portion of the show is brought to you by East Coast Covers. The Smart Commuter cover was designed with 40 years of riding experience and delivers a high-quality, long-lasting, American-made product with the size and style to cover whatever two wheels you ride. It's also the first cover with an adjustable fit and attached backpack for easy, quick storage. They're actually sending me a beautiful cover with the full Monte logo on it, so I can't wait to get that. All right, let's move now to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. Listen, guys, I'm just going to say it right here. You want to talk about the Atlanta Hawks for a second, and I don't think they could get to the NBA Finals. I wrote an article on Nuts and Bolts Sports. I have the Bucks winning, so I'm not going to talk trash. But the thing is, their post-up player is Danilo Gallinari. That's their only low-post player. Collins does an amazing job. But my thing is, guys, if Kevin Durant and the Nets were exhausted in Game 7 because the Bucks are so physical, how is the smaller Atlanta Hawk team not going to be worn down? Joe, we'll start with you. Break this down. Who do you like and why?
Well, I want to get my comments in and out so I don't have to be a witness to your Atlanta Hawk praising. I say the Milwaukee Bucks get this series in 6 games. Just too much size. I mean, who's guarding Giannis in that team? You can also say the same thing with Atlanta. Well, who's going to cover Trae Young? I think Drew Holiday is a great defender. I think between himself and PJ Tucker, those slow down Trae Young. I think that we can all say at this point in time, with what we've seen in the NBA playoffs so far, you don't stop Trae Young. You just try to slow him down. So I think that Holiday and PJ Tucker can do that. And I also got to ask for Atlanta, who's guarding Chris Middleton? I mean, Collins is a pretty good defender, but Chris Middleton's a different kind of cat with the mid-range game, the long-range shooting. He can also take you in the post if he needs to because he's really expanded his game. So I think Milwaukee has a lot of advantages when you look at their roster from top to bottom. I give Atlanta a couple games. I think this team might go 6, like I said, because they're really talented. But I think at the end of the day, the Milwaukee Bucks will be the ones to win this.
Okay, Jeffrey, the reason why I give Atlanta a chance is they're a great shooting team. And we've seen that Budenholzer doesn't make any adjustments. So I think they're going to get whatever shot they want on offense, and Milwaukee Bucks still win despite. I think Nate McMillan's going to put on a coaching clinic and put his team in position. You had to be going crazy with Kevin Durant never getting double team in that series, correct?
Oh, dear God. That Game 7, Monty, I was literally on the edge of my seat staring at the hotel telling me, no, stop him. Stop him. All right, I'm excited. Here's why I have the Bucks winning this series in 6. First of all, a shout out to Brendan Jennings, hashtag Bucks in 6. Go tweet it out. The Bucks are so much better at home. They're 5-0 this postseason at home. They play, as we saw against when they blew games 1 and 2 in Brooklyn, blew game 5, but all 3 barely won game 3 at home. And game 6 and game 4 were a complete wipeout. There's no way the Hawks win all 3 home games and win a game at Pfizer form. Also, I don't think Trae Young is ready. He was terrible in Game 7 in Philadelphia. So although the Hawks still won, I don't think he's not capable of leading a team to the finals all by himself. He doesn't have enough help. Monty, you described the Hawks best. They're like the Mark Jackson Warriors. They are just about ready to leap. They're just not quite there yet.
Good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Dom, one of the things that Jeffrey just said, Trae Young was terrible in Game 7, but he hits a big 3. He got everyone else involved. But one of the things I watch, and God bless PJ Tucker, because PJ Tucker's getting schooled left and right, Kevin Durant, and every play he just works harder and harder. There was a great moment on the sideline. Most people don't know this. PJ Tucker actually took Kevin Durant and his mom around to Texas, and that was the reason why the mom and Kevin Durant went, because they love PJ Tucker. The mom's on the sideline late in the fourth quarter, and she's screaming at PJ Tucker, "This isn't football. It's basketball. This isn't football. It's basketball." PJ Tucker looks at her and goes, "I love you." She takes off her mask. She goes, "I love you too." Because Kevin Durant, the reason he went to Texas was because of PJ Tucker. But I got to assume PJ Tucker is in there for one reason, and that's to knock people out. I've never seen a player get beat so many times and come back harder after every play, right? I mean, it's amazing what the toughness he's brought to Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Patrick Beverly gives him a little bit of a run for his money. Patrick Beverly will still talk trash and get in people's faces, even though you're dropping.
But he's not as physical as PJ Tucker.
Yeah, it's a little different. But I do like the Bucks in this series. I do want to give – now, listen, the Hawks do have a chance in this series, not because of the talent, not because of Trae Young. It is simply because Mike Budenholzer is going to be completely outclassed by Nate McMillan.
100%.
I'm one of the biggest Nate McMillan fans you will find. I've spoken on it many times. The Pacers will rue the day that they fired him for absolutely no reason. But that will give them the chance because he's going to make adjustments when Budenholzer will not. Now, the thing that the Hawks don't have going for them in this series is that Ben Simmons isn't playing for the Bucks. So they're not going to have a player who's just going to choose to not be an option in the fourth quarter. Giannis, even though he may not make his shots, he's going to take them. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to go to the rim. So I just think that the size of the Bucks, I think the Bucks' experience does show up in situations like this. And like I said, I think the Hawks, it's a great season for them, overachieved a little bit, but it's just a tad bit too early for the Hawks.
Yeah, it might be. I agree with that, Tyrese. But I mean, one thing that I said in Game 7 on my show last week, I said, am I going to take Joel Embiid in the clutch where he turned the ball over, he missed free throws, Danilo Gallinari stole the ball from him, or am I going to take Trae Young? All the pressure is on Budenholzer and this Milwaukee Bucks team. They got over the hump beating Brooklyn, but all the pressure's on them. We've seen Giannis miss free throws down the clutch. Do you give Atlanta – you guys know I've been talking about Atlanta for 4 months. Do you give them a chance or no? Joe, I'm sorry.
Not to say that they don't have a chance, but I just feel the Bucks are just a better team, the better overall team. They have, like you said, they have playoff experience. They've been here before, so this isn't anything new. And I feel like the matchups are kind of at the disadvantage of Atlanta because you have Chris Middleton, who when he's on consistent, he can give you a smooth 25 to 30 points, and you have Giannis who gives you a consistent 30 and 15. So who's going to stop that on the Hawks side? So I feel that the only job for Milwaukee is to contain Trae Young and hope the role players aren't hot. So like I said, I do like Nate McMillan is the better coach, but I feel that Milwaukee has the better talent on their team. In order for
Edwin, Trae Young kind of tipped his hand here. He was interviewing on TNT because I stayed up to watch it after they beat the 76ers, which I said they would, but no one really wanted to pay attention to that. But I also said they'd beat the Knicks. Man. I also said they'd beat the Knicks. No one paid attention. But that's either near or there. We don't really care about that. But Edwin, he kind of tipped his hand. Joe's like, we don't care about that. So Edwin, he said on the interview, he said, we know because they're so big and long, the Sixers, we wanted to push the pace and get them up to town and wear them out. I look at this Bucks team, and I think it's going to be the opposite because even on a bad night, Giannis, without shooting free throws and shooting a three, is getting you 28 and 15. Middleton on a bad night is getting you 20. That's 48 points right there. Can the Hawks win going up and down, or is that playing right into Milwaukee's hands?
That is playing right into Milwaukee's hands. And I might add that the Hawks are a better defensive team than they have been, as opposed to being under Nate McMillan. But, they have no answer for Giannis. That's the biggest thing right there. They are undersized. I'm not too sure on how they're going to find a way to push the pace and to the success. The Bucks are not a good three-point shooting defensive team, so that might be a good thing for the Hawks. But for the Hawks, they're not a good rebounding team. And the Bucks they love rebounds. They thrive on second-chance offense. So, for me, for the Atlanta Hawks to find a way to win this series, they have to want to win the paint. That's the biggest thing. Clint Capella, Onyeka and Okongwu, those guys have to come out to play against Brook Lopez because if they don't, it's gonna be a Bucks and 4 if I'm being honest. If they don't win the paint battle, Easily, yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be that quick.
Okay.
So,
Look at this. Someone said Dom's crushing it today. I will say this, Jeffrey, and we'll close this out before we get to the other series. I think Brooks Lopez is the softest man in the NBA. Yes, he had a block shot, but Brooks Lopez is way too chill for me. He should get double-digit rebounds. One of the things that really impressed me, guys, is Collins' ability to rebound amongst guys who are so much bigger than him. Brooks Lopez is not a rebounder, and one of the things he struggles is with athletic guys. I think Clint Capella is going to finish a lot around the rim. I think Clint Capella is going to control the boards. Are you worried about rebounding in this series? Because, like I said, Brooks Lopez is soft.
I'm not worried about rebounding because Brook Lopez doesn't have to do too much. I agree. Brook he was very good his first year or two. I'm lucky this year. He's really starting to slow down. But I'm not worried about the rebounding because Giannis and Chris, especially Giannis, do such a mean job on the boards, especially at home. Like, remember, guys, the Bucks, all they have to do is win 4 home games or 3 home games and 1 road game, and that's it. And what I saw against Game 6 against the Nets team was probably better than the Hawks. It was one and done every time. Nets would shoot. They missed. Giannis would grab rebound. Everyone would go racing back up to the other side of the court. So Brook, you're right, Monty. He's not really what we're hoping to see, at least not this year. But we don't really need him to do so much as long as he knows what the heck he's doing with 2 seconds left in regulation.
Yeah. Listen, he had a great block at the end of Game 7. So it was like, hey, Brooks, welcome to the series defensively. All right, let's move on to the series that is in the Western Conference. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I never thought Devin Booker was as complete a player as he is now. I thought he was a very good scorer. But with Chris Paul out, Joe, he had a triple-double. I mean, is there anything this guy can't do? First of all, he's very tough. He talks a lot of trash. We saw him get into the face of Giannis, so he doesn't back down for anyone. He's passing the ball. He's rebounding. Is he the best player remaining in the playoffs right now?
Ooh, I say he's one of them, top 3. But I don't know if I can say he's the best. But I mean, the same way you always never miss an opportunity to make a shameless plug about University, Monty. I'm not the biggest fan of the school, but I respect greatness when I see it. Yet again, another John Calipari, Kentucky guy who doesn't do a lot of Kentucky, but gets into the NBA and becomes this megastar. I mean, you can go down the line, take a look at some of those rosters Kentucky's had the last couple of years, and how many guys were so-so in school, but are doing great in the pros. But anyway, I digress. I think Devin Booker's probably top 3 best players remaining in the NBA playoffs. And I think that when they get this, not having Chris Paul, you can see the influence Chris Paul's had on the Suns. Confidence through the roof for Devin Booker, for DeAndre Ayton, all the role players. They know their roles. They know what's expected of them. They're going to win this for themselves and win it for CP3.
You know, it's amazing, Dom, because we're seeing now in the playoffs Atlanta role players doing better than the big 2 in Philadelphia. We're seeing Phoenix, the depth, do better because, let's face it, the Clippers have played well, but for them to get to the title, they really need, or to win it, they need Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. We saw the Lakers with their big 2 really injured. LeBron wasn't really as good as Anthony Davis wasn't playing. So we're seeing now, is it with Milwaukee, 5, 6, 7 guys contributing, Phoenix guys contributing. Has the NBA turned the corner here with depth over superstars?
I would like that because I feel like it would make the league way more exciting if just more parity and stuff like that. But I don't think so. I still think teams are still going to try and follow this model of, big 3, load up with as many superstars as you can and just have a bunch of role players and guys that are on minimum salaries, and you'll be able to kind of shortcut your way to a championship. Like I said, I would like it if teams went with depth and, maybe we'll have 1 or 2 superstars, have a deep roster and do it that way. I think it makes the league more interesting, but I like this Suns team. I like this Suns team a lot. To answer your question about Devin Booker, he is the 3rd best player remaining. 3rd best. The only 2 people I would put ahead of him, one of them isn't playing right now, in Kawhi Leonard because he's injured, so I guess you can knock him off. And then Giannis, just because even though he's limited in what he can do sometimes offensively, he's still just such a force. But Devin Booker, and you have to give – listen, Trae Young is 4, by the way. Trae Young is 4.
Listen,
Yeah.
and that's a great compliment.
Mhm.
That's a great. I was having an
He's
argument
cool.
on Twitter today because someone was saying Kobe Bryant. I said Kobe Bryant is in my 10 to 15 of all time. Someone's like he's 9. I'm like you're arguing over one. Like that's a great
Yeah.
compliment. Kobe Bryant is top 10 to 15 all time. Trae Young in his first playoffs is 4th. The thing that I love about the Suns here, Tyrese, is everyone plays their role. You have guys like Payne coming off, Jay Crowder. Even without Chris Paul, Monty Williams has this team. They never beat themselves.
I said it before, man. This team is a well-oiled machine. Chris Paul, Monty Williams, everybody, James Jones, the executives. This team is very well put together. This team overall, whether it's on the court, whether it's in the front offices, they do everything right. And I feel it's just a testament to Chris Paul's brilliance because we all know everywhere Chris Paul goes, it's gold. So. But now with this team specifically, you give Chris Paul a scorer like Devin Booker, you give him a couple good role players such as Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, Ken Johnson off the bench. You have something that you can really work with in terms of getting Chris Paul, his showing his worth, showing his abilities on the court. We already know he's a great playmaker, but overall his leadership, all the intangibles, all the things you need as a ball player, making sure your players are confident, knowing that you're always going to be there no matter what, showing that you even when you're not there, somebody's going to step up. The Phoenix Suns overall, this team is serious. I've been saying this. The Phoenix Suns are a very serious team. They are not playing around this playoffs, and you can see it in the way that they play.
I'm going to go to Edwin, and then I'm going to go with Jeffrey. I'll lay out the two questions. One, Edwin, we're seeing a different Paul George in the postseason. Okay, I don't know if it's because he's been there for 2 years now and he's comfortable. I don't know if he's fully healthy. He was not the same player in the bubble. Same thing with Chris Middleton. I said this. Something has happened to Chris Middleton after like game 2 of the Nets series. He's like, I'm not going down. He was scrappy defensively. He was getting into people's faces. But something has happened to Paul George, and I don't know what it is, but can you beat the Suns with Paul George being the number one option?
I think the Suns are actually too stacked for Paul George to beat him by himself. It will be a tough series for them to win. I do see the series going to 6. I do see Paul George continuing his success as being the number one option once again. And he has been playing very well. I do give him credit for that. But I think that the Suns team is just too deep. It has too much going on for them. Devin Booker is playing an all-around game. And credit to Paul George. He's doing the same thing as well, too. But he needs more help, in my opinion. I'm not sure if Reggie Jackson can help him on the offensive load. I'm not too sure on how Marcus Morris feels at the point. He's a little bit banged up. Terrence Mann, he's going to go off for one game, 3 points, and then next game he goes for 10. So Paul George, for me, he's good enough to get him a couple games, good enough to make this series a little bit more compelling, a little bit more competitive. But at the end of the day, I'm definitely taking the Suns in 6.
Yeah, I think we all agree the Suns with this. All right, Jeffrey, talk about Chris Middleton because I got to be honest with you. After game 2 against the Nets, Chris Middleton has been a different player. He's taken shots he hit a game-winning shot in the series. He looks so much more confident. He's rebounding the ball. He always did that during the regular season. What has happened this postseason with him?
Yeah, Chris Middleton is a very polarizing figure in Milwaukee. I think most fans you're going to see out there are really big on Chris, but there's some other fans who they kind of get frustrated when he disappears at times. He has his ups and downs against the Nets. Like in the first couple of games, he was way too loose with the ball and helped contribute to the Game 2 disaster. But I just keep – and we just saw a comment. He is much better at home. You have to say that. He tends to kind of go away a little bit in the playoffs. But the thing about Chris, I've seen this over and over again. I've been in many Bucks games all the time. There's 3.5 quarters. You forget all about him. It's like you're not even there. All of a sudden, all these passes to need a big shot. And he makes it. Like we saw that in Game 7. The Bucks, they scored no points in overtime for 3.5 minutes. Blake at the time, give it to Chris. He hits one of the biggest shots in Bucks history, just like that. It's totally cold, too. He just wasn't having the best night. Just passed it right to him. Like KD, Chris did what KD couldn't do. Take the mid-range step-back jumper, went right through the net. He's a wild card. You never know what he's going to give you, but we would not have made it this far without him.
Nice shot at KD right there, by the way. I like that. So I'm going to rate this way. I'm going to say the best remaining coach in the postseason is Monty Williams, Nate McMillan, Tyronn Lue, and then Budenholzer. Joe, can you win a title with the fourth best coach with 4 teams remaining?
Not unless your star player really has an out-of-body experience. I mean, if Giannis and Chris Middleton can get you 40 or 35 a night, yes, you can. If they can't do that, then no, you cannot. I agree with that rankings. Those rankings are spot on.
Yeah, okay. Are you worried about maybe not in Atlanta? I think Atlanta's going to win 2 games minimum. Jeffrey, are you worried about your coach if he has to go up against Monty Williams?
Oh yeah, I'm worried. Let me give an example. So I remember growing up in history class in the Civil War, the North and the South. The North had advantage after advantage after advantage. The South had the better generals, and the South almost won the war in a day. Coaching is so important. As we saw in Golden State, as we saw in Cleveland, the difference between Blatt and Lue. It doesn't matter how good your pieces are. If you don't have the coach who can opportunize those pieces to full its potential, you are not going to have what it takes to win the championships. After the huge disparity in talent which the Bucks do not have over the Suns or Clippers.
Yeah, Dom, one of the things that I really like, I saw this before, right? The Clippers have never won a title, right? The Hawks have won a title in let me see it right here. Yeah, the Clippers, none. Suns, none. Hawks, 58. Bucks, 71. Is it good for the NBA to have new blood?
I think so. I mean, like I said, I'm someone who likes parity, so I like dominance to a certain degree, right? Like I like the Warriors winning, 2-3 in a couple years, but then after a certain point in time, like I'm someone who, and again, I get labeled as a LeBron hater. I'm not a LeBron hater, right? I just point out facts. But I felt like for those, damn near a decade where we just always saw LeBron in the finals, kind of got tired of it. Now, granted, a lot of the times it was at the expense of my Chicago Bulls, so that probably played a part of it. But I like having the cycle because, like I said, it keeps it fresh. It gets other fan bases involved. I love it. I feel like the best times in the league is when there are tons of teams, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 teams that legitimately look at themselves and say, hey, we can win the whole damn thing this year. And I feel like that's when the league is at its best.
All right, last 2 questions, and we'll have you how we can follow you, and we'll get Joe to close it out with Nuts and Bolts Sports. Okay, Tyrese, the question here is Luka in Dallas for the next 5 years, or do you see him leaving before that?
Nah, he's gonna sign that's gonna stay for 5 years. After that, we really don't know what's gonna happen. Say in 5 years, Dallas is completely bad, and well, they're not bad, but they don't get to the expectations that were that are expected of them. That Luka gets them to that championship, then it's going to be a different story. But I feel Luka signed Supermax and stays for 5 years, and then after that, we really won't know until 5 years now. So I say Luka, he's gonna rock out for a little bit more with the Mavericks.
Listen, that's 5 years, $200 million. Finally, Edwin, if Chris Paul comes back and they win the title, can I say that Chris Paul has had a better career than Allen Iverson?
Ooh, yes, he has. The big shiny ring on your finger does make a huge difference.
Look at Joe's reaction right now.
It does. Listen, Chris Paul for me, there's always a debate about whether or not he's going to be in your top 5 for point guards. If he does get this ring, if this is his year, then I definitely will say that he has had a better career than Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson's a great player, one of the best all-time scorers ever in history, but there was the hindrance of him not getting that ring to solidify and cement everything. Chris Paul, the same thing with him, under a lot of scrutiny over the past years. Can he be able to deliver in the playoffs? If this is his year and he does so, then yes, I will give the nod over to Chris Paul.
Okay, Joe. Joe is losing his mind right now, so you might as well take it over, Joe.
I got nothing, Monte. That's incredible. Nah. Disagree.
Joe, Chris Paul is one of the best point guards ever.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
So it's not a stretch.
About Iverson, I go all on the court, off the court, the influence he had on the league, when implementing a dress code because of the guy. Look at that. All I got to say is look at the 76ers roster that played against the Lakers that year. When you got Tyrone Hill and you got old Dikembe Mutombo and Matt freaking Geiger on your roster, and you're able to at least win a game and make the NBA Finals. Eric Snow's your point guard. Come on, man.
Wow. All right, we'll end it there. I love the time. All right, Jeffrey, how can we follow you? How can we support you? And are you going to another game?
Well, I hope to go to 2 games to make game 5. I mean, this is maybe a long time for the Bucks to make it this far again, right? So follow me on Twitter. It's just my name, at Jeffrey Newhome. Follow all these fine gentlemen. Follow Monty. And most importantly, please follow our blog's main account. It's Nuts and Bolts SP. We got great memes, content, news, and one of the friendliest and most. It's like a family here at Nuts and Bolts Sports. And hit that subscribe button, and please do join us on the Twitter sphere. You'll have a great time with us.
Jeffrey, always appreciate you coming on. And please send us pictures in the group chat of the games that you're attending. Love to see you there. Thanks, Jeff. Jeffrey's definitely a fan favorite. We love him. All right, Edwin, how can we follow and support you?
So you guys can follow me at The Real Eddie 03. I actually put my Twitter handle this time. So,
I like it.
Yeah, so you guys follow me over there. New content coming out with articles. Read all of our articles, guys. We work really hard, and I love this family. NBS is really good over here. Also, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel Nuts and Bolts Sports. Have multiple content coming out. The full Monte Sports Show is the hottest thing in town. So be here every week for that. We'll see you soon.
Listen, Edwin and I are getting along every week. The fact that he was all over KD, I'm going to have to give him a round of applause for that one, because I was the only one at the start of the show that said KD has really, really have to take a definitely criticism for that shot. Edwin, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for coming on. All right, Dom, so I hear you're taking over a show. Tell the fans what show you're taking over.
Yes, so coming back to you guys in August, this will be the new face of No Huddle Necessary, taking over for our good friend Jeffrey Barnes. Super excited about it. I'm going to be excited to give out the points and choose who wins and loses. I might make Jeff lose the first time that he's on the show. We'll see how it goes. But yep, so look out for that coming back to you guys in August. Also, you can follow me. I always get it wrong. There we go. This one. Yes.
There you go.
At Dom the Sports Guy on Twitter. And like I said, man, like everyone else has said, follow everyone here. We're all great guys and girls over here at Nuts and Bolts Sports. Check out the YouTube page, subscribe, like everything. Everyone here, we love what we do. We have a ton of fun here. But yeah, follow us and just enjoy what we put out.
All right, Dom, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for taking the time out. Appreciate it. All right, finally, let's get to our New Jersey boy. I'm going to give you a quick question here. Over, under. Giants win 8.5 games. What are you taking?
I'll take under. I haven't had faith in the Giants in years.
But that division's so
that's going to continue. But I don't. That's what I'm saying. The division was bad last year as well, and everybody sucked. So I think the Giants are going to be probably at 8 game or maybe 7, but I don't think so. This is coming from a non-Giants fan.
Listen, I get it. You took the under. All right, how can we follow you? Right there.
Follow me right there at Sportsopedia. I post daily content. Follow everyone here at the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew, the full Monte Sports Show. Everybody, follow everyone. We all put the content. We all are good people. We all know our stuff. So make sure you follow, subscribe, like everything you need to do. And I'll be back here next week. Hopefully we'll see you too.
All right, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. All right, Joe, finally, let's close it out here. Talk about your show, what you're doing, and anything new coming up on Nuts and Bolts Sports.
Man, a lot's going on with Nuts and Bolts Sports. It's been like days like today where just articles just coming out daily. I mean, we're getting to the point now where it might be 4 to 5 articles a day, if not more. Just really good content coming out. We do a lot more than just recaps on sports. I mean, recaps are something you can get from Google. We do a little more in-depth with player profiles, Q&As, interviews, things like that. Really, really awesome opportunities starting to pop up now with things opening up a little bit because we're now, quote unquote, post-pandemic. We had Zach Darves, who's a writer who writes about sports and social justice and kind of how they intertwine. He was in Omaha for the swimming trials to go to the Olympics. So very, very awesome to have one of my writers there in Omaha covering those trials. He's also going to be covering some other sports as well coming up here for the Olympics. He has a show actually coming up, I believe, this Saturday, where he's going to talk about the LGBTQ community and sports. So Zach is definitely leading the charge when it comes to showing us more than just what happens on the field, what happens off the field, and how these players and teams and sports can affect people's lives. So a lot more content coming in that direction too with Nuts and Bolts. Of course, like you said, Monty, my show, Just 3 with Joe, 2 episodes down. Episode 3 will drop next week. You can catch that on the YouTube channel as well. So we are just pumping out content nonstop. Sports.
Someone asked me, Joe, are you ever going to do that live, or is it always going to be recorded, then you just drop it?
Not sure. Still kind of up in the air at that. I mean, you know me, Monty. My schedule's insane. So
yeah. So you just do it when you can and then drop it. Okay,
yeah,
Joe, my last question is there any sort of bonus for getting predictions right? Because, you know, the entire – I mean, I'm just going to leave the Atlanta – I mean, is there a bonus for my predictions? I mean, come on, man.
You might have to take – I'm going to talk to the powers that be about that. We have to have a board meeting and see if that can happen or not.
Last question. Why do you despise the Hawks? They're well coached. They play team basketball. There's only one superstar. Why do you hate them?
I did not hate the Hawks. I just thought you were going to go over the top with the I predicted it and I got it right. So I was preparing myself all day for an hour and a half of you saying, I got it right, I got it right, I got it right. There's no hate on the Hawks.
But no, the whole thing is like, and again, Greg says this all the time, like, we see something like, for example, why aren't you double teaming Kevin Durant? Like we're not professional coaches. I mean, I used to coach college, and like one of the things that I kept saying to my friend Andrea, because I have the NBA League Pass, I'm like, this Atlanta Hawk team is so good. And then they're 35-15 in the second half under Nate McMillan. So my whole thing is like, what is everyone missing? And I understand people who don't watch games like I do, but the national media who's supposed to be up and aware, it's been a swing and miss for the Hawks since the start of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think Nate McMillan's he's about to make a whole lot of money when this season.
Yeah, listen, Dom's been saying that Indiana's going to regret letting him go.
I agree, 100%. And then the person that replaced him is gone already. So come on now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Joe, we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Always a good time.
All right, take care. Listen, guys, I want to appreciate everyone for watching. Definitely subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Definitely check out my article. I have the Bucks winning. I hope Atlanta wins, but I have the Bucks winning in 6. Listen, I am not a fanboy. I wanted to cheer on and pick my boy Trae Young, but I couldn't do that. I just think that the Milwaukee Bucks are just too big, too strong, too physical, and I think Phoenix is too deep for the Clippers. They have too many options. But I will tell you this: if Milwaukee loses the series, and if Trae Young and the Hawks go to the NBA Finals, if Joe thought I was going to be annoying today, he might have to sit next week out because I'm going to be so annoying. Again, I want to thank everyone for watching, and in the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss from No Country for Old Men, I shall return. Carla Jean.